November 12th, 2022. Well, we're continuing to watch the results of the midterm election here. Uh, the we still haven't got to 218 projected seats for the House yet. I think the last I saw were 211. I think there was one other source that suggested 213. I think that was CBS. So maybe they're getting a little bit more loosey goosey. Some of the news services tend to be a little more conservative on their projections than others. Um, but at any rate, so we need to get a few more seats, and then we'd have the 218. What this election is a bit of a surprise to say the least. You kind of what the hell happened here? Because if you look at I've been following the polling, of course, and the Real Clear Politics average of generic ballot, which has it at 2.5% beforehand, and some of the more reliable polls we usually trust, like Rasmussen, and I think Fowler has about 5. And so, and you'd think with that you would have achieved a solid victory in the House that wouldn't still be waiting, holding, kind of having our fingers crossed that we get to where we need to be, like we kind of are right now. So that is an interesting thing. But it looks like my best guess, if I had to just take a wild guess, is it will probably end up at about 222, plus or minus some, and that's the problem. Let's hope it's plus, not minus. By the way, if you like these videos, please give me a like. It helps with the algorithm, and of course, subscriptions are appreciated. Yeah, so that's kind of the situation here on the House side. One of the real interesting surprises, people talk about failure of polling. However, if you look at the actual count of all the Republican votes and all the Democrat votes and all 435 House seats that are in this election, it turns out that the Republicans are ahead in the popular vote on this by about 5%, which pretty much matches like the last Rasmussen and Trafalgar polls, and ahead of the Real Clear Politics average. So you're left here kind of wondering, well, okay, what happened? Well, I did a little bit of looking around here, and I mean, the district I'm in happens to be one of those pretty conservative districts, and our Congress lady, she won with about 64% of the vote, and so it was a kind of easy victory there. But and then I looked at, say, AOC's district, and of course she won overwhelmingly, even more than that. But the thing is, the total vote in that district was a lot lower than this relatively uncompetitive conservative district. So what it looks like, that of course in districts where there's are really competitive, there's a real battle, like the ones we're waiting to see what the outcome is, the numbers will tend to be higher. So what we have is a very uneven distribution of the vote. In fact, I originally looked at the idea that, well, there's all these Democrat districts in the inner cities that are such blowouts for the Democrats that you'd figure, well, there's a lot of wasted votes there. But in fact, you look at AOC's, for instance, not really. I mean, yeah, it's a blowout, but there's not that many votes compared to, say, a non-competitive conservative district, and although there's less of those, I think. But I think that may explain the difference in this process. The other thing that this number has been shrinking a little bit from, more like 5.5% down to where we are now. And so I think as the California vote comes in particularly, probably it'll shrink a little bit more, just because a lot of that's out hanging with their kind of weird system they have out there. But I thought that's interesting, just kind of that doesn't mean there's not a lot of votes. It's just that, again, it depends on what district they're in. It's a little bit like the whole electoral vote in the president thing. I just didn't realize it would be that asymmetrical. And when you look at New York, for instance, well, there's a governor's race there, which should have made that district vote more than normal. And given the fact that of course, in New York, the Democrat governor candidate, Hochul was reelected. So at any rate, I thought that's an interesting, kind of little factoid. On the Senate side, as of this recording, I think that they're calling, at least some of the news services are calling the Arizona race, Masters versus Kelly for Kelly. They were about, last I saw, Masters was down about 5%. So it's going to be hard to recover from that, even if we do get a bunch of positive in-game votes. Lake, the governor candidate, is only about 1% behind as of this recording, and she's saying that she believes that there'll be some substantial Republican votes that'll come in that were same-day drop-off votes. And the reason why that happened was that if there was a major failure in the voting centers of getting the ballots printed out. Apparently, they print them out at the center, and they had a failure with their printers in something like a quarter to a third of the voting centers, and a lot of them tend to be more in the Republican areas. How did that happen? Just think that little coincidence that occurred. Yeah. Especially considering that the Democrat Secretary of State is running against Lake, in that race, Hobbs. So at any rate, apparently a lot of these people went back, and I guess this is a mail-out ballot state. I'm not sure, but apparently they had or could get the mail-in ballots, and were able to vote them and then put them in their envelopes with appropriate, signatures and dates and stuff or whatever on them, and then drop them off at the voting centers again. I guess they had to go somewhere and get the ballot from them, come back or whatever. But anyhow, they did it. There's something like 300,000 or so ballots that are the same day drop-off ballots, and Lake has been spreading the viewpoint that they will skew strongly in her direction. Perhaps behind many of these people see these videos will know the answer to this, but I just think it's kind of interesting. On the other hand, we've had so many optimistic Republican predictions that haven't worked out so good that I'm kind of, we'll just have to wait and see on that, right? So, and so what that all comes down to is that the Herschel Walker race in Georgia, the runoff, is going to be crucial, because that may be our only chance to either win the Senate or, well, not to win it, but to actually just hold the current 50-50 ratio, which has still been useful. So far, because of Manchin and Sinema, we've been able to maintain the filibuster, and hopefully they'll stay that way, particularly if we have the 50 votes. So it's very important that we win Georgia. I've actually made a small contribution to the Walker campaign. In fact, earlier, just a while back, just today, well, yesterday, I guess it would be now, so I think that we now need to really go all out to support Walker. I kind of wonder whether that it should be focused so much man to man, or I think maybe Walker should be that way, saying he's the best candidate and all that. But I tend to think some of the independent expenditure efforts that are done by the National Republican Senate Committee or some other PAC that might come in there, that somebody ought to present an ad that is obviously not a candidate's ad, which simply presents the idea that you want to hold back the Senate from, becoming full-scale under the Democrat control. You want to oppose that, because after all, it's a state that elected Kemp as governor, so that's a conservative Republican. You would think that those people would not want Schumer to be given even more power than he has right now. So I would think that'd be a good argument to be made, at least by an independent expenditure committee, and I hope they do that. But that's kind of the state of play. The Senate thing that, I thought we would get to 51 at least. I'm a little surprised at all the cases where we had some kind of a chance, the Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, long shots in places like even I guess it would be Washington, is it, and of course Colorado. I didn't think we were going to win those, but maybe. But I really thought we had a really strong shot at Nevada, and yet right now it's not called yet. And I think the last I saw, we were ahead by like 0.1%, but there's like supposedly something like 30,000 ballots yet to count or something like that. And if that's true, given the recent trends where we've dropped from about a 2% lead to 0.1%, does not sound encouraging. I mean, Laxalt sounded like he believed he was going to win, but then again, I kind of wonder, a candidate at this stage, you kind of project an over-optimistic image. I mean, what's he going to do? Come out and say, yeah, I think I'm going to lose, but I don't think he's going to do that. So I hope he doesn't. I hope he's right, that maybe that all the, but we'll just have to wait and see on that. Well, that's kind of a quick rundown on our situation on the election, and we'll have to see what's upcoming. I mean, Biden is apparently encouraged by the situation. He's sort of not facing what he thought he'd be facing. On the other hand, if we do take the House, we'll probably be able to shut down the most extremes of the Democrat agenda. And so we'll have to just kind of wait and see how this all turns out in the next few days. So I kind of wrap this up for now. I will make a brief mention. I guess on the Ukraine war, Russia has evacuated from Kherson, and so I don't know. So that's a major victory for Ukraine, and I'll probably get back into covering that a little bit after the election's over, because there's a lot going on in the world right now too. But so I'll be wrapping this up for now. As always, I'll be posting this on Rumble, and of course my social media account addresses are below. You can follow me on Twitter, and particularly I tend to post on there quite frequently. Kind of give you my latest opinions. Certainly catch you something a little bit more updated, because on the numbers as time goes forward. So anyway, I'll wrap this up for now. Until next time.